So it's no secret at all that over the last few years, me and my software brands have made multiple six figures online, and in today's video, I'm going to break down exactly what I would do if I was starting from scratch. Alright, so let's actually paint the picture a little bit. Whenever I first originally started out with my own software brand, life was very hectic. I was doing so many things. I had so many commitments. I was in college and university full time. I was also working a job. I was stacking shelves in Home Bargains for £7.55 an hour. Now, if you follow me and you know a little bit about me, you probably know that part of my story already. I have so many posts over on my Instagram, but if you are new here, that's a little bit about me. Whenever I started my business, I was in college. I had to juggle that alongside of working a job, while also I had literally just started the business the same time that I had started everything else. Now, most people, whenever they're in that situation, they sit down and they think, I have way too many things I'm doing. How do I find time to, socialize and spend time with my family and spend time with my friends? And there's only a certain amount of hours in the day. That is absolutely correct. But whenever you sit down and you realize that there's so much more to life out there than just following that very traditional path that most people go down, they go to college, they get a 9-to-5 job, they work at that job until they retire. That was never the life I wanted. Since I was super young, I always knew that I wanted a little bit more out of life than just really following that traditional path. So that's exactly why I started the business. Now, the biggest struggle and the biggest thing for me was really actually finding time to reach out there and get in front of potential customers for my software brand. Now, the number one thing that most people don't actually realize about running a software brand is you don't need to know how to code. You don't need to hire any techie developers. You don't need to do any of this stuff. In fact, you don't even really need any sales experience. I literally started the business with literally just a laptop that's sitting right over there and a Wi-Fi connection. That is literally all you need. That is all anyone needs in this day and age to make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of euros online. You don't need a fancy setup. You don't need to be an expert at sales. You don't need to take any sales training courses or any of that stuff. You literally just have to have a strong enough reason to go out there and make a big change. Now, that reason for me was, again, like I just said, I knew that I was destined for more, but I also wanted to be able to provide for my family. I wanted to be able to spend time with my family, go off, be able to, take them on trips, take them on vacations, buy nice things every once in a while. And like literally the first thing I did, whenever I was actually making some good money, is I did go ahead and buy this Rolex right here. But, I don't show any of this stuff online to flex. It's literally just because this is all possible from literally just running one singular business model from literally just a laptop. In fact, most of this stuff right here, it doesn't really matter at all. It doesn't make any big substantial changes in your life. It's really being able to spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, and really get that financial and location freedom back. But anyways, back to the story. So whenever I started the business, the biggest struggle was really trying to actually get myself out there and, the confidence to talk to business owners and the confidence to go out there and sell the software and, trying to actually present something in front of a business owner. The biggest thing that I preach when it comes to running a software brand is the platform that we build everything on is called HighLevel. If you've never heard about it before, I have so many other videos on my channel. In fact, I go to Dallas in Texas pretty much for the last 3 years, going up on stage accepting these awards right here. So we are pretty recognized from this company, a multi-billion-dollar company. They're based over in Dallas in Texas. They run this award ceremony every single year, and I've had the pleasure of going up on stage, meeting the co-founders, meeting the teams over there, and accepting these awards on stage. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. I know I'm literally just a lad from Ireland, but this is all possible. Now, one of the biggest things that I actually preach every single day is volume and just taking action, because I work with so many people and I work with so many guys that are inside of the Software Founder. Now, if you've never heard about the Software Founder before, it's a program that I run personally, directly myself, where you can literally work one-on-one directly with me, not with my team, not with a bunch of other people that are going to do the support and everything. You're literally able to work with me directly. And one of the biggest things that I always talk about is the volume and getting in front of as many people as possible. Now, as a college kid and as someone that is, actually working part-time as well on the sides, that can be quite difficult. So I had to get really, really, really creative. I had to do things that, not many people are actually willing to do. In between college lectures, I was on my phone, I was outreaching. At the weekends, I was doing cold calls. Sometimes at my lunch times whenever I was in college, I was literally walking into different businesses door to door. Now, if that scares you, don't worry. When it comes to running your software brand or running any business really, there's so many different ways that you can actually go out there and bring clients on board. You don't just need to focus on one. I think so many people make a big mistake of starting a business and picking one thing to do, one service, and one different way, one outreach method to get in front of people. And that's a really big mistake, because you want to be able to diversify a little bit. So you need to be able to, do your cold emails, send Instagram DMs, send Facebook messages, walk in door to door, just having a few different ways that you can go out there and get clients. But once you have enough data underneath your belt and you realize what methods are working specifically for you, maybe ones that aren't really working for you, or maybe ones that aren't really working for you, once you do it enough and you get that data, then you can realize and you can finalize what exactly it is that you want to double down on. So for example, inside of the Software Founder, I work with so many people of all different walks of life. I work with guys that are working 9-to-5 jobs. I work with guys that are in the same position I was. They're in college or in university. They're working part-time. We also work with people that are actually retired and they're well past needing to work a job, and they really just want to build something. They want to build a business that they can then look back on at some point and be like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I was able to, bring in that money and start that business to be able to just provide a little bit more for my family. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because different methods work for different people. So you might be watching this video right now and you might have 8 hours per day that you can put into a business. Or you might be someone that's watching this video right now and you can barely even find 3 hours a day. You might have an hour, you might have 2 hours. Different methods are going to work for you. I would not sit here and recommend that, if you do only have 1 hour per day to sit there and walk into a bunch of different business owners, because it's a time consuming thing. Yes, it absolutely works. And yes, you're able to build up such really good human connection with your potential clients. But if you're in that position, then the things that I would be looking at for you is the likes of your cold email, your DMs, your cold calls whenever you can, because you want to be making the most out of your time. The next thing that a lot of people really do have questions about is, okay, Jason, I now understand I need to get out in front of potential business owners. I know what I need to do to go out there and get clients. What am I actually going to sell? Now, this is also a very interesting question, and it pretty much has the same answer as the previous question. It depends on what you want to do. It depends once you get enough data. So you could sell websites, you could sell booking systems, you could sell CRMs, you could sell automations. You need to do this for a few weeks. You need to do this for a few months. And once you have worked with a handful of clients, I normally recommend once you have your first sort of 3 to 5 clients, you then will know the different features and the different services that you want to offer. Maybe there'll be some services that you just want to stay well away from. Once you have figured that out, that's where you can really knuckle down. So you know what you're doing to get in front of potential clients. You know what outreach you're going to do, but you also know what exact service that you want to offer to businesses. And once you have that combination, once you know everything, you know what you want to do, you know who you want to do it for, it's really just about doubling down and really, really scaling up from there. Just take a look right here at Max and Keenan, 2 of our amazing software founders that I've had the pleasure of working directly one-to-one with over the last year, about year and a half. Before running their own software brand, Max was in the army and Keenan was selling bikes. And I'll never forget, whenever they first reached out to me over on Instagram, they had pretty much just sat down. We got on a call and they really just broke down their situation that they were in. They were able to describe it so perfectly. They were able to tell me everything about, what they were doing on a day-to-day basis. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to know is the reason, like, why do you want to do this? Why don't you guys just continue doing what you're doing, Max? Why would you not stay in the army? And Keenan, why would you not, continue to, do more hours at work, sell more bikes, bring in more revenue? And the answer that they gave me was that they wanted to be able to build a business that they could someday look back on and be proud of. They didn't care about the flashy things. Yes, they can go off there now and they can buy a few watches and maybe get a nice little car for themselves. But these guys have literally got their business in a point where they've completely automated most of it. They are doing multiple 6 figures per year. It's super hands off. Their profit margins are anywhere from 90 to 95%, because when you're selling software, you just need to sell it over and over and over again. You don't have crazy hard costs. In fact, in terms of business capital and startup capital, there really isn't anything. You literally just need to have a big enough reason. You need to have a dream. You need to have a goal, and you need to work towards it every single day. Now, these two guys, Max and Keenan right here, have been an absolute pleasure to work with. In fact, they were recently our £100,000 success story, and I actually did post that over on Instagram, so I'll leave the link for that down below as well if you do want to check that post out, learn a little bit more about their situation, why they started it, the different clients they were able to work with. I'll actually leave that link for you down below in the description. Or like Paul Johnson right here, a local lad from Donegal, where I'm actually originally from in Ireland, who is our 15k success story. Now, Paul Johnson was pretty much in the exact same situation as me. He started his software brand, he started his business while he was in university, but he was also in his placement year. So he was the same situation as me. He was in college, he was working his job, he was making a little bit of money, but he knew deep down in his heart that that was not the path that he wanted to go down forever. He knew that the goals and the life that he wanted to live, they weren't on the other side of living a 9-to-5. He had to take action into his own hands. He now has a business that pretty much works without him. He's able to go traveling, he's able to provide for his family, provide for his friends, be able to do these amazing things in life that, you know, you watching this video right now, you might think that that's a million miles away, but let me tell you, not that far away. You just need to make one singular decision, fully back yourself, invest in yourself, invest the time, invest into a business, so that business will pay you for the rest of your life. Now, I could go on and on in this video today and talk about so many amazing other success stories like Sam right here, or Philip Antonia, or Kuan, but I'm not going to do that because the results speak for themselves. I have so many posts over on Instagram about this. Now, I could sit here and talk for hours and hours about every single one of these success stories, but I'm not going to do that. The proof is in the pudding. I have so many of these success stories actually over on my Instagram, so if you are interested in checking those out, I will leave the link down below for my Instagram as well. So if this does sound interesting to you and you are potentially interested in, you know, learning a little bit more about what running a software brand entails and what you're actually going to be doing, or maybe you're someone right now and you're sick and tired of living the life that you've been living for the last few months or maybe last few years, you finally had enough and you want to take matters into your own hands, I'm going to leave a link down below, the first link down below in the description, where you can check out the software founder. My name is Jason McElchar. I am the founder of Growth Rate, the software brand, and the software founder. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.